This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Today's video is about yo-yos. We're going to be yo-yos revisited if you were trying to think of which size quilt that you wanted to make. And this just started because someone wanted a quilt made out of yo-yos. And I had to figure out how much material it would take, and so I could figure out a cost just to get an idea of what the different blocks look like. This is a 3x3. This is a 5x5. And this is a 6x6 with the extra edge around it if you were going to do the dividers between the different boxes. And as I was working on my numbers, I said, well, if I get one set figured out, I'll just go ahead and make another set so that you could see. So I took one double, and B was a twin size, and C was a lap size. And under each one, I put about how many yo-yos it would take, 5-inch pieces of fabric to make the 2-inch yo-yos, and then it down at the bottom tells you how much material it is. So you can see why people really used their scrap materials that they had rather than go out and buy the material for their project. A lot of the yo-yo quilts that you see will have a frame around the boxes, and so the green is the other color that you would use, and this is a 5x5, and this would be for a twin. And the only adjustment I had to do was add one more row at the bottom. And of course it takes more yo-yos. And the number of yo-yos in this applies to a 2-inch yo-yo. And then the block's got 25 in it. So down at the bottom, if you wanted to do the greens, it's approximately 541. The flowers would be 1,050, and then I converted it to yards again just in case you wanted to know, especially for the green border. Then I did the same green, and this time I did the 6x6 blocks. The yellow would be the framing if you wanted to do that. And again, this is 2-inch yo-yos when you put them together. And here you have an example of a block of 36 yo-yos. And of the yellow, if you wanted to frame it, it'd take about 468. And the flower blocks would take about 1,000. If you made the whole quilt the same, it'd be about 1,548. So those are just different ways that you can look at it. As I was doing all of this, I came up with a project to use some of these yo-yos for. Now, if you remember, I got one of those bias tape little kits, and I had really liked making the larger strips, so I decided I was going to make a pillow for someone. And this is the top that I have finished, and you can see my bias runs through behind the flowers. And one of the ways that I like to do the pillows to make them really nice is I add a piece of scrap on the back and a piece of batting in there, and that makes it so quilty when you work on it. And then the back, I just took the same fabric, but there again I added a scrap to the back, and you can see a nice colorful scrap, which nobody will see, and a piece of batting inside. And then I just free motion played with doing the back on the pillow. And so I've got the measurements for that particular pillow, which is a rectangle, and it's 18 by 12. And then shows where you can place your strips. And then I alternated my flowers and hand sewed those. Now the blue, if you want to do the whole thing by hand stitching, you could stitch your blues down. I just machine stitch that, and then I hand stitch all my flowers on there. And rows, I used 1-inch binding, and they're alternating rows of flowers. And that project, and I got into hand stitching, and it was so much fun. I said, I want to try making something bigger. So this is a lap quilt. And you can see I have run my blue strips all the way down to the end. This is sort of like a nice scrappy quilt because I had different blues and I just used different colors. Those I machine sewed because I wanted it to be almost a sew as you go quilt. So when I did that, I already had the batting on the back and I had my backing on the back. Then that's when I put the blue strips on, and you can see I've already got that quilt look on the back. Then I pulled out the rest of that box, and I started, and I thought, well, I don't know how many of those I want to make, so I started counting what I had in the box, and I was really close to having enough that I could take and alternate these and put them on there. And I've already started sewing down in this one corner, and it's so bright. I think it's going to make you feel real good. When I get the lap quilt finished, I'll come back and add those dimensions in the description. So if you get interested in doing that, it'll be there. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. I hope you enjoyed this video and it gives you an idea of something you'd like to do. If you liked it, please subscribe and hit like. Thank you.